different thing. It is impossible. It does not happen so. I mean to say, it does not happen so. I mean, it is not possible to feel the torture of other, keeping yourself in his position over and over again. It will be more or less, but not equal to and same to that which the other has felt. No, I didn't see the torture of my wife with my own eyes. When I reached home, they had already arrested her. It was the first occurrence during the 7-year span of my marital life that I entered into my empty house. Yet no, it was not with me at the time. I began to tell it several years later. The neighbors from the neighboring houses were, of course, watching me through their windows, and it was but natural. I myself used to look through my window at those whose relatives were being arrested by the Gestapo police and were taken into a closed van. But I never imagined that one day I shall come home and my house will be barren. I ask you one thing. Is it not an odd that whenever we hear a news of somebody's death, torture or accident, or we learn it in the newspaper, this perception doesn't come to our mind that this can happen or could have happened with us also. It always seems to us that these are for us. I'm happy that you are taking one more beer. After all, you cannot stay before an empty glass for the whole night. I knew that you definitely asked me this question. If you had not asked, I would have been surprised. In the beginning, I myself could not understand anything. I've already told you that at such moment one becomes hopeless. He is not able to anticipate his torture properly. The belongings of my wife were scattered all around: clothes, books, old newspapers. The drawers of the shelves and the tables were laid open, and everything but the big or small inside them were scattered on the ground at 6 and 7. The sewing machine, the presents of Baisakhi, the old photo album. Do you know how many things are hoarded by themselves after marriage? It seemed that they had searched everything. They had searched every nook and corner of the house. There was not even a single item which they spared untouched. Do you know, at that night, I kept on sitting in my room. The bed of my wife was laid open. Under the pillow there were her handkerchief, packet of cigarette and matches box. She always smoked a cigarette before sleeping at night. In the beginning I was annoyed at this habit, but later on I became apt of that. By the side of the bed on the tripod there was her book which she had been reading during those days. She had tagged her clip to the page for marking, but she had stopped reading at the previous night. She had tagged her clip to the page for marking where she had stopped reading at the previous night. There was the smell of her hair on that clip. Do you know how many things are hoarded by themselves? Do you know? How the memory of minor details calls back even after several years. It is but all right. We generally think about big and emotional things before marriage. But these big things slip away from our hands after marriage because we live together for several years. There remain some small things, as our daily routine habits, looking superficial from outside, and our mutual differences which we do not share with others for shame. But everything seems to be lonely without that. But everything seems to be lonely without that. At that night, I kept on sitting in my room alone among the belongings of my wife. Perhaps I was not within myself at that time. She was not at home, it was merely a truth which I could understand, but why they arrested her, this terrible secret was beyond me. Why my wife in particular? I kept on myself asking this question frequently during that night. You'll be surprised that I suspected my wife for the first time during the 7-year span of my married life, as if she had kept something hidden from me, a thing which had nothing to do with me. Later on, I came to know that Gestapo police was set to trap her for a long time. Some illegitimate leaflets and pamphlets were found in her possession, which were being distributed anonymously among the public during those days. It was a severe crime in the opinion of German officials. The police had confiscated those papers from the room of my wife. And you'll find it interesting that I was not aware of it. Before that night, she and I were living in the same room, loving each other, and there was something in that room which was her secret, which belonged to none of my share. Do not find it interesting that they knew my wife better than I myself did. Let me finish my glass, then I will give you company. The pub will be closed in some time. No, not Susan. Drink, relax and comforting. The joy of drinking consists in drinking relaxed and comfortably. There is a proverb in our language that we should drink up to the fill, because we shall not remain on this ground after 100 years. 100 years is a big span of time. Don't you think so? Whether any of us will survive by then, I suspect. A man eats, drinks, lives, and suddenly one day he dies. No, today is not a terrible thing. The terrible thing is that the dead man makes away with the sacred forever and you cannot do anything against him. The other way, he becomes free of us. At that night, I kept on moving from one room of my house to another. You will perhaps laugh at me that I was the next man after the Gestapo police who had conducted another search operation of the belongings of my wife. I had searched everything elaborately. I was not able to believe that she would not leave anything behind her for me, by dint of which I shall be able to open that lock. Next day, at night, they knocked my door. I was already sitting prepared waiting for them. I knew that they would come. If my wife had confessed, they need not had my necessity. But I knew that she herself would not speak even a single word by herself. She would not speak even a single word. She herself would not speak even a single word. I was not aware of her secret, but I was aware of her habits. She knew how to keep silent. Habit of let the torture be. No, I did not see her tortured with my own eyes, but I can assume more or less. The first question which they asked was quite clear whether I was her husband. I said yes only to this question. All other questions were beyond me. All other questions were beyond me. But they were not ready to exonerate me so easily. They laughed at me when I replied that I did not know about those activities of my wife. They thought that I was evading to save my escape. They carried me into a cell, where for 7 days and nights they kept on asking me the same type of questions in various ways. What do you know about your wife? Where did she go? Whom did she meet? Who had given her those leaflets and pamphlets? I cannot say you about the method they adopted to draw any answer from me. I cannot say you about the method they adopted to draw any answer from me. You'll not be able to feel even a fraction of that, even if I shall tell you elaborately. They beat me until I lost my sense. But they have got enough perseverance. They waited till I came back to sense. And thereafter the same sequence would start, the same old questions and endless torture. They were not able to rely upon me that I, who had been living with my wife in the same house for several years, did not know about her secret activities. They thought that I was befooling them. I was trying to throw dust into their eyes. No. It was not my torture that they beat me. My torture was that I had got nothing with me to answer to their questions. To say I had got some very ordinary family affairs, which perhaps every woman does with her husband. Which perhaps every woman does with her husband. I could not imagine that she was living another life with daily routine life. A life out of me, far from me. A life which had nothing to do with me. Do not find it ridiculous that if they had not arrested her, I would always consider. If they had not arrested her, I would always consider that my wife is that I know of her. My wife is that I know of her. My wife was that I knew of her. Do not find it ridiculous that if they had not arrested her, I would always consider that my wife was that I knew of her. Do you know those were the few last days of the war? Gestapo did not let their prey escape easily. My wife did not confess till the last. They abandoned hope with it, but they considered me to be mature. Perhaps they did not want to kill me, although they did not even spare me of the pain that they could give me. They spared me only when I became senseless or they themselves became exhausted. Even I did not confess. But it was not my courage. As a matter of fact, I had got nothing with me to confess. Do you know at the first night when I did not find my wife at home? Do you know at the first night when I did not find my wife at home? I'd been hurt. It seemed to me that she had deceived me, keeping me in dark. This perception hurt me time and again that even my wife did not consider me to have been faithful. But later on, while I was undergoing severe torture by the Gestapo police, I became grateful to her that she told me nothing about her secret. She revealed nothing about her secret. The other way she had saved me. I have not been able to conclude as yet whether I could have been able to keep silent if I were aware of the secret of my wife. Think how much my torture would have been increased if the option of confession were open to me. You can tolerate severe and severe torture under constraint, but if you know that you can be relieved, you can get rid of that torture at any moment, provided you will have to betray someone, your close relative or your friend. Then it is very difficult for me. To say whether you shall not opt that option after a certain degree of torture. There is no torture severe than that of open choice of confession. Open choice of confession. Open choice of confession. There is no torture severe than that of open choice of confession. Sometimes it seems to me that my wife did not reveal her secret to me to save me, myself, from the torture of taking decision of confession. Look, generally it is said that there is no hiding love. It is crystal clear like a mirror glass. I think it is an illusion. The meaning of love is not only to open yourself fully but also to conceal yourself a little so that you can save others from your personal dangers. Every woman understands it. And because she has more power of love, she dares also to conceal herself. Don't you think so? Don't you think so? Maybe I am wrong. But at night when I do not get to sleep, it gives me relief to think that let it go. I shall not be able to make you understand. I did not hope when I invited you to my table that I shall be able to make you understand. No. Thereafter, I never saw my wife again. One afternoon, while I was returning home from my office, I came across those posters which were stuck to the walls of the city in every couple of days during those days. Each poster consisted of 30 to 40 names of those who had been shot dead during the previous couple of nights. When I saw the name of my wife, I felt exceptional for some time. That there can be the face of my wife behind that small name. I've already told you that until you yourself see someone, your close relative, dying before your own eyes, if you will hope persists that she is still alive, you'll open the gate and she'll come to you striding from the kitchen and stand up before you. Look, I have begun to repeat my statement. This is the joy of drinking beer. You deviate from the path and keep on moving around a circle, round and round. Are you going? Yes, I am going. But before departure, I'll buy some eatables for my cat. She'll be waiting for me with thirst and hunger. Till then. No, you need not give me company. My home is not far from here, and I know the limit of my drinking. I've already told you, 1.5 inch only. समाप्त.